Oh, my computer's very like,
Hey, you have once again dropped straight into Hella Vella. And today we're going to be talking with author Joey Froemling. Say hello.
hello.
Now, did I say your name right?
Yep, you did.
Oh,
So
okay.
usually
Excellent. I'm
people say
glad.
Froemling, and it's like,
No,
no, it's
well,
Froemling.
good. I'm glad I went for the simplified version of it. I
Yep.
didn't want to church it up too much, that always leads to bad news. So Joy, you are an author out on Kindle Vella, right?
Yes, ma'am. So Kindle Vella is my serial primary. I do have print as well once I get done with Vella's.
Oh, I
Um, and,
see.
then, and then I just started doing kind of a direct thing with Later Press. It's a brand new platform out there, and
Oh, that's
Nate
cool.
Nate Gillick, I'm sure I'm butchering his name. He kind of got me hooked on that. So it's just a way to do everything I have on Vella kind of direct buy instead of going through the middleman of Amazon. And it got really dark in here all of a
Ooh,
sudden.
okay. Well, that's pretty cool. So it's another serial platform then.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Well, but we're going to talk about Vella today.
yes, Vella. Box it. Yeah.
I think the first thing of yours I found out there was My Viking Alpha. Is that the first
Oh,
one?
that's not the first one. He is number 3. Um,
Ah,
the very first one
so
was 6. The second one was Mistress Giselle, but we had a little issue with her that I had to renegotiate an exclusive contract to get her to come over to Vella. And then My Viking Alpha. So My Viking Alpha started as satire. Was just my NaNoWriMo project. I was going to just make fun of all the weird paranormal romance tropes that I could pack into a single story. And then my husband, who is my partner in crime, was like, no, we need a plot. So and now it's going to be a 3-book saga. So we're on for this year. The second book, which will be called My Celtic Luna, will be coming out probably towards the end of the year. We kind of keep rearranging the list, so yeah. So Rolf and Lily, which started as the how many tropes can I fit into one book? So we've got the I'm a Viking, 1. He's a werewolf, 2. And we're following the old school. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Blood and Chocolate, but that's the kind of werewolf he is. So not the normal traditional werewolf. He turned into like a wolf. And then 3, we did time travel. So everybody loves time travel. 4, she's a witch. So then like that's just a whole nother thing. 5, I just met you and I love you, because when they first meet, they fall in love. And then I forget what the next trope was that we did, but I mean there was another one in there later in the book of
that's pretty funny.
yeah, but
But then people liked it.
yeah, that's like it's so funny because we actually created a story. So like the book starts with her as a child, which some people don't take that very well because she's 4 in the first chapter, 4 years old,
Ah, I see.
and they're like, what's going on? This is child. I'm like, okay, exhale. First of all, the guy that she meets isn't the alpha, it's somebody else, sort of thing. And it was just so funny, like reading that, because I took that from childhood stuff. So the first chapter has she has a baby blanket called Specially, and I have a baby blanket called Specially, which I just discovered my mother still has.
Oh my.
So she's fixing it, and then
Oh wow.
so the scene where she's screaming because somebody's taken her baby blanket, that was me as a child. And
Oh wow. Okay.
and then like the next part is when I was very young, my mother had to explain the difference between boys and girls, between my sister and I. And we're talking like 4 and 2 is how old we were.
I
And
see.
we're in Kmart getting our Christmas pictures taken. And my little sister gets toe to toe with a boy, and she tells her, I'm a boy. And I said, no, you're not. You don't have a you know,
Yeah. Ah,
whole
nice.
store. And my mother's dying. So then she has a conversation with us in Pizza King after about private conversation and public conversation. Genius me goes, well, if all these people would leave, we could talk about yeah, so she's like, so that's kind of where I got the inspiration for how Lily behaves as a kid.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. And then as you
So,
progress the book, she gets older.
so that was number 3 was
Yes.
My Viking Alpha, right? That's the one you're talking about that you thought of every trope you could have thought of.
Yep.
But Mistress Giselle was 2. What did you say number 1 was?
The 666.
That's the first one you did?
Mm-hmm.
That's the last one I heard about. Okay.
So what's funny is I actually wrote 666 and Giselle at the same time. I started on another app that shall not be named, and that's where I had the exclusivity contract with Mistress Giselle, and I actually had to negotiate with them to get them to release that so that I could put it on Vella. So 666 was the first on Vella, followed by Mistress Giselle, but they were actually written at the same time. They both got finished right about my birthday in October. And so
Does this other entity, which shall not be named, rhyme with radish?
No, I actually got rejected by Radish. So that's so funny to me. Like, it is one of the many out there because there's a lot. So it is, I can't actually say its name because I'm on an NDA with it. So
You are?
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, to all of that stuff that happened to get Mistress Giselle, get my digital rights back to it, I had to sign an NDA, so I can't say anything like all the details. But
Got you. But
yeah, so that's a lesson for everybody out there. Before you sign an exclusivity contract, really read it. Like it's, I mean, it's a big deal, and it took a lot of mumbo jumbo to get it all taken care of.
Right. When you thought you had the rights to do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one thing I like about Vella is they don't make you do that.
Yep. So and their Vella is, so I love the Vella platform. My UI UX brain goes, we need to do a little work on the user experience, but
Yes.
you know, that's with any app you get. But I love Vella. I love that I can just create a story and go. In fact, I've got one in the works that I haven't even really been talking to people about because it's going to be my actual first serial. So everything I've put up there to this point is a book that's just broken down into a chapter format. So I write it as I go, and Vella is kind of one of the ways you get to see it as I'm writing it. But web serial and book are very different. They have a very,
they are.
My serial that's coming up, it's going to be called Sin Network, and we're going cyberpunk. So I'm like super excited for that.
Oh, that sounds really exciting. So any preview on the title? No.
Sin Network. It's
Sin. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yep. And it's like, so it stands for, oh my gosh, you quote me, Synaptic Integrated Network. It's basically people get a surgery to have this chip sort of a computer implanted into your head, and then your eyes are also modified so you can have the overlay on your eye. And it's basically, do you ever see that movie with Bruce Willis and the girl from Gone Girl, where they live in like a virtual reality and then he has to come to the real world and save everybody, and kind of, anyway, it's one of those weird one-off movies that I found on Amazon. But it's sort of like that, except for they have created AI to interact with everybody.
Right.
And so this serial is going to show the AI interaction and the real world consequences from those interactions, because the network is like always in place. It's like once you've done it, it's a permanent thing. So you can't like get off of the network kind of thing.
Right.
I can't wait to see Adam and Eve are the main primary artificial intelligences and intelligence but they whichever one, but their shenanigery with the people in the real world is, I can't wait. It's going to be fun. So,
well, that sounds awesome. That'll be really good. What are the tags you are going to think about putting on that one?
So that one's going to get cyberpunk, urban fantasy, erotica, because it is very much going to be the naughty level. I forget what else we were going to put up there. Artificial intelligence, maybe. Actually, I don't know why. I can look it up. I have it pre-set up, so you can still see me and everything, right?
Yeah, I can still see you.
Cool. So now you just see me looking at my screen very intently. So like, yeah, I've had it kind of hiding in the wings because I haven't had a chance to really sit down and just play with it. But the tags I have are artificial intelligence, science fiction, erotica, fantasy, cyberpunk, and steamy, and then of course the J.R. Froemling tag.
That sounds awesome. Oh man.
Yeah, it's
That's
my
pretty
favorite
cool.
cover too right now. It's like that's. But,
Well, when you upload, well, when are you gonna open it up? Did you say next week?
Probably April 1st at this point. Although I learned a very interesting lesson about Vella. If you schedule for the first of the month, it counts those whatever chapters you schedule for that as the last day of the previous month, because it posts on East Coast, reports on West Coast. So there's a 3-hour gap. So I want the new story bonus all in April. So I'm gonna manually post or scheduled to post on the 2nd, kind of thing.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So which one of these though that you already have would you say is your best performing one?
Oh, the best performer? That's tough. I would have to say Viking Alpha actually is the best performer. Just I think people really get the Viking is really what gets them with time travel. And it makes me giggle because I just every time I see somebody tick that one and then they like burn through the whole book. Like so I'm like, all right, well,
That's awesome.
Fall of Avalon follows closely behind, very closely, but it's ongoing, and so it's a little harder to gauge the comparison between the two because
we haven't even talked about what that's about or what Devil's Hope is about. So let's do that. Let's talk about what's Fall of Avalon about.
So Fall of Avalon is I created this world in the online writing community I came from, and it was a game originally called Second City. And one of the books in the saga is going to be called Second City because it's all in Chicago and it's a play on the Chicago versus. So Fall of Avalon is you take every fairy tale that's in existence, every folklore, every myth, every story written, and it all exists in this realm called Nod, N-O-D-D. And it's ruled by Mab, Titania, and Nim, the mother, the maiden, and the crone.
Oh, right.
Kind of theory. And it has Merlin, and the creator of Nod is Aesop. So Aesop's Fables, Aesop's.
Nice.
And all of his descendants are what are considered Grimms. So like the Grimm brothers.
Gotcha.
So Jacob and Wilhelm, William Shakespeare, Lewis Carroll, who else? Frank F.L. Baum is Frank, who created The Wizard of Oz. Which originally I wanted to use Maguire's Oz from Wicked, because that's one of my all-time favorite books is Wicked.
Right,
and
right.
It's not in public domain. And so I had to rename. Yeah, so I had to use the Oz books, the actual original ones, because they're all in public domain. And so the Wicked Witch of the West, I had to rename her because originally I had her named Elfie. And well, that's Maguire's name for her, and I can't use that name. So she has a different name now, and it actually is a play on her being an oracle, and it's really kind of cool. So so basically what happens is all these fairy tale creatures, what they're doing in their world affects the real world. So if like there's a war in Nod, there's war in the real world, kind of thing, and vice versa. If war breaks out in the real world, it affects what's going on in Nod. And they don't really know each other exist. They're like fair. So to Nodians, Earth is a fairy tale land, and vice versa. So this book starts with the Arthurian legend. So I took Arthurian legend and I took all the characters from Nod. So you've got Aesop, the Grimm brothers. You meet the maiden, the mother, and the crone, and then Merlin is in this book as well. and kind of just slammed them all together to see what would happen. We added time travel, we added magic, we added, like, it's just kind of like, for example, fiddlesticks is the F word, like, and so it's a PG-13-ish right now.
Cool.
And then I have these 6 mysterious characters named Law, Fate, Order, Chaos, Saint, and Desire. And they're kind of a play on Titans in mythology, but
Right.
they're in this book too, and they're the antagonists really in the book. So, and
Wow, this is great.
yeah, so like for example, Morgan Le Fay is the daughter of Aesop and Mab. So,
Okay.
and she is fighting. She becomes the Lady of the Lake in what they consider the real world, which is Laegir or Loegir. I might be saying that wrong, but I discovered that they used to call England like Loegir, Loeygr. I might be spelling it too. But anyway, I did some like looking up on that, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. It's not called England. It's and because we're pre-Roman at this point.
Right.
It's and I took, so one of the things I did, because I didn't want to just be retelling a fairy tale, is kind of the premise of what of the story is wrong. Like, Morgan and Arthur aren't brother and sister. Like, they have, you'll see in the book how they kind of have a relationship and stuff, and who everybody is and where they fall into places, and like, that's one of the things. And like, I wish is a powerful spell, and it's kind of a play on the Into the Woods, where wishes come true, not free. So like,
Right.
and
Very
there's
cool.
so yeah, it's my favorite to kind of research and do, because it's fairy tales and myth and folklore all mashed into political intrigue and war and some romance, very tiny bit of romance. This is actually my first, what I would call a clean book. Um, so, and I air quote clean because there's violence and a little bit of gore, and there's some
Right.
nudity, but it is not the naughty list, which is my, like, oh my goodness, they need to put that away, like,
Right. Okay.
kind of thing. But yeah, that's my fantasy adventure. So it is just like a big epic fantasy adventure, and it's right now slated at 3, maybe 4 books to tell the whole story arc.
Very cool. And how many episodes are up currently?
27.
27.
That's so yeah. Vella's taken 6 days to post an episode.
I know.
Well, mine are all fixed now. Knock on some wood. But now they're posting, like, the last chapter post within a couple hours. So I'm not a scheduler. I'm terrible at scheduling, just so everybody knows. So I like to publish live.
Right.
And
Right.
up until their last update, it was a couple hours, and then it's just like 6 days to get it. Excuse me, to get it live. Just killed my mojo. Like guys.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I hear you. I feel you. Believe me,
yeah.
I feel you. And so yes, I'm so you say that's done now, it seems like.
Yeah, it seems both of mine are fixed, because Devil's Hope and Fall of Avalon are my 2 live ones right now, and they both posted up within a couple hours. The last chapters I did.
Well, let's talk about Devil's Hope now.
So,
A Devil's Hope, and let's just say it is spelled A and then Devil's, like a single guy, one Devil's Hope.
yes. So, Devil's Hope is the second book of Mistress Giselle. So
that's right, you did say that.
Yeah. So Hope Marie Wolfe is the 8th daughter of John Wolfe in the Wolfe Legacy series, and we decided to write her story first because it's our favorite to tell. And the first book is about how she becomes Mistress Giselle and gets into the seedy mob underworld in New York City in the not late 70s, early 80s. So no cell phones, no cordless phones. It's very interesting to kind of go research what, like, fun fact I learned is that boxer briefs didn't come out until late 80s. So, like, and so that's one of those fun facts. You're like, okay, because I was trying to describe what somebody was wearing underneath, and they're not wearing boxers or boxer briefs, because at the time they didn't exist. So so that's been fun. But so that's Mistress Giselle, and it ends on a pretty good note. with her getting ready to move into a more managerial role with the club she's a part of. Well, A Devil's Hope picks up 2 years later in her life, and she's been married for 2 years. She now has 2 kids, and she's still working with the guy Harold she met in the first book, and they're still doing these things. And a new drug cartel is moving into New York City in the Brooklyn area where she's at. And the leader of the drug cartel that's moving in is El Diablo, which is the devil in Spanish, for those of you that don't know. And so this book circles around her starting to become sort of this mob queen figure more than some stripper that everybody likes, kind of thing. And she first establishes a connection with the Scapelli family, who was in the first book. And the head of that family and she become friends, kind of, and he respects her neutrality. She wants her club to be her club. It's not a drug cartel's club. It's not the Scapelli club. It's hers, and kind of fighting for that independence. And in the course of that, getting those mob groups, the two rivaling ones, to start working together. So, and she broaches that. So it's really kind of a cool way to see how this girl from the Midwest really kind of starts becoming powerful in this sort of mob scene without being a mobster herself. And so the second book, it includes that. It includes, we have another story arc with a district attorney in it that, you know, like they bring RICO charges against her and stuff like that. And so like kind of how that works. And she's now running a BDSM club on top of that.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah. So this book originally was titled Le Salon, which is the name of her BDSM club. If you read Mistress Giselle, that makes way more sense, because she ends up getting into the BDSM world like on accident. So and so this book is now focusing, she's now running this club, she's getting a degree in psychology, she's like dealing with these mobsters, she's now got a new family. I mean, just kind of like this is a 5-book series, like
wow.
Because my husband and I, we do this thing called, we call it play talk, which is like improv acting, telling a story. And we've told this story, the Mistress Giselle story, from the time she's 18 till present day. So in present day, she'd be in her 60s.
Right.
And like all the things that happen between her and her husband and her children, because they end up having like 6 kids. So one of the running kind of jokes is she's Lutheran and he's Catholic. And she, you know, and kind of that play on, you know, Catholics have big family and
right.
And stuff like, there's not a lot of like, so it's funny because she is a very religious person, but the book isn't like get you to church, you know, like so right. But A Devil's Hope is what happens from about 1985 to about 1987 in her life.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah.
And then, so is there a further continuation on your list here?
So we can talk about her brother Joe, who the Naughty List is about. It's in the same series. But so he's number 7 out of the 12 wolf kids. And it's, so the Wolf Legacy is the whole series. And we plan to write books for all 12 of the children and the dad.
I see.
Slated for the rest of this year is one is called Biker Queen, and that's about their brother Billy, which he gets mentioned in Devil's Hope. And then he's also in Mr. Giselle, but he'll be more in this one. And then A Man Named Wolf is coming, which is about the father, kind of how he met his wife and all the stuff he does. Because my favorite era to play games in is that Vietnam kind of slice of life, you know, to improv tell stories, is that rock and roll. Just there's so much that goes on from like 1955 to 1975 in the United States that it's just great fun to tell stories in that. And so this series, A Man Named Wolf, starts in the 1940s during World War II kind of stuff, and then just moves forward from there. So like we have all of his kids, and his wives, and kind of just going back and forth. And it's really, I think it's a great story. We have a timeline. I have a spreadsheet of doom for the timeline
Oh,
that
that's cool.
like 25 tabs showing all their kids and all their ages and when they were born and like all that stuff.
Whoa.
So,
Whoa.
but
Unbelievable.
so the naughty list is following Joe, which is his real name is Elijah Joseph Wolf. He hates Elijah, so he goes by Joe, and he lives in Missouri. He lives in Kansas City, Missouri, and it's his origin story in the series. Um, I was going to pick up all the kids when they turned 18 and start there, but Joe's story made more sense to pick up later when he's in his late 20s when he first became a detective. So this is sort of a rom-com mystery, like,
Whoa.
yeah, it's the dirty. So the naughty list is they are naughty as heck. So like, and
That's easy to remember.
yep.
I got it.
And like my favorite thing about that book is the titles to the chapters, because they're all Christmas carols or lyrics from Christmas carols, and they're dirty entendres, all of them.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so that's what was most fun to write. So
That's pretty cool. I love it. I love it. Well, is there so you've had a good experience out on Vella, right?
yes and no. I have a pretty middle of the road kind of, which is weird to me. I want to be the most popular kid out there, everybody does. But like I've only ever made the top 250 once for about an hour with the naughty list, which is funny to me because Viking Alpha got a lot of traffic real fast. But I've never been on the featured. The completed stories, I don't know what's up with that. I've never made it on there. I think maybe once with Viking Alpha. So I'm not getting any of the like front page traction, but I sit on the top bubbles for almost all the category, or not in the bubbles, but like on the first page or the second page, and I keep track of it. I have a weird little analytical spreadsheet that shows me where's my rank with these stories, and I have a couple hundred people have liked and thumbed up each of them. I mean, none of them are dead in the water. I have to work a little harder for 666 and Giselle because they're older. They've been I marked 666 completed in November, and Mistress Giselle I dropped within a week in December because it was already done. So they've been done for months, and so getting people to them has been a little harder. I also, a lot of my reader base is not in the US. They're all overseas. So I had to create other means for them to read. So I'm like dying. I want it to be international. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, so that's where, but I've had the great experience with the other authors. There's been a few that I'm just like, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I also have a very blunt personality. People read my text sometimes and they're like, and I'm like, I swear I'm not mad. I swear. Like, because I generally want everybody to have a positive experience. So that's why I started doing the kind of review thing. I don't know if you're in that group where I just started posting up. So I created a post that said, hey, my stories could use some love. Drop your stories and I'll read through them. Well, if I start a story, I finish the story, except horror stories. I have a very active imagination and get scared. So if you write good horror, I'll give you the first 3, but if it scares me, I'm out. So like, and nothing wrong with that genre. It's great. It's
right.
I like to sleep too. So like
there's
so then I
probably a few you should stay away from.
Yeah. Jazira Hawkins had a really great one. His game that scared me so bad. I was like, nope, close my phone. And but I read through them, and then I started deciding, I was like, well, to show that I'm reading through them, I started doing these like little, I read your first 5 and here's what I think sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it took off way more than I expected. So I'm still working through my list of people. Because I read everything. Just I will give anything a shot kind of thing. And in addition to writing, so like, but
right. Well, that brings me to another question. What are your favorite Vellas? One or
My,
two?
that's tough. I think the one that I burned right through was Hive recently. S.C. Morrison, I think is the author on it. I'm really terrible with names, so I'm sorry if I got it wrong. But it's I didn't expect to like it, truthfully, and then it was amazing, and I was just like, oh, it's done. Like, like I caught right up to it. And I would also have to give a shout out to the Legionnaire story by Jonathan James. That definitely. And then one more is Jane Apavita's. I think I said her name right. Her Dragon Blood series. I started it on the site that shall not be named, and then she followed me to Vella, and I mean, and it's just amazing. I read almost all of it on the other site, and then I went ahead and bought it through again because she changed it up a little when she brought it over to Vella. And so if you like dragons and you like steamy, because I like steamy, it's really great. If you're into a very kind of clean, fun fantasy adventure, Jonathan James's, and then if you're into reverse harem, S.C. Morrison. So that's
very nice. Good plugs.
Yeah.
Good plugs. Well, I have really enjoyed having you on here. Last thing I'll ask. No, I think I already ask you what you would do to improve it? I did, didn't I?
No.
Well,
but
okay. I will now.
Improve Vella, I would,
yes.
or my writing. So
oh, improve Vella. If you had the keys to the kingdom and didn't have to ask anybody, it was up to you, what would you change?
So there's two things I would change. The first is the entire faves thing would go away. Period. Everything would be run off of how many reads you're getting and how many likes you're getting. I feel like the faves hinders a lot of authors, especially people who write multiple stories, because which one of my stories are you going to fave if you like them all, kind of thing. It's in a positive world. So I think the fave system is very broken. And then the second thing is the number of clicks it takes a human to get to my story. It's so you have to click to log in, you have to click to read episode, you have to click again to buy tokens and then move down. And you can buy in bulk, but you can't unlock in bulk. So that's, and also I'm a vertical scroller when I read. And so the way Vella works is you have to read it, click next. Just let me go to the next chapter. Like yes. I think it needs to be a little more streamlined and a little less work for the reader. Because that's where I get a lot of pushback from my readers. It's a lot of work. You're just clicking on a screen, really, like.
Yeah, I know. Well,
that's where I would. Yeah.
Those are pretty common wishes.
Yep.
That people would like to see.
And then like a behind the scenes wish is that it doesn't take 72 hours or doesn't even take hours to publish at all, because I get that they're reviewing and stuff, but I gotta kind of believe the other apps that are letting you publish immediately are checking stuff too. I mean, I don't know how well. I don't know any of that, but it's a little frustrating to have to say, hey, it's ready now in 2 hours. Like, so. But there we go.
Okay. Well, that probably would be a good thing also. Although, I don't know. No, I guess it would be, because you can't recall it or do anything with it while you've got it drafted and turned in. So you couldn't edit it or anything like that. So it's an advantage to us.
I inevitably find a typo after I publish every single time. And I'm like, the wait from the time where they release it to where I can edit it again kills me. Cause I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody's going to see it and it's going to be awful. It never happens like that. So.
Right. And then, it took it so long to get up there. You're so hesitant to put it back in draft mode. Just like, oh my God.
So now I'm very I read it 3 times before I hit the publish button. I look at it in preview mode. I go look at it on phone.
Look at it every kind of way.
Yeah.
Well, so we're going to look forward to Sin Network.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm so excited for
Well,
it.
that sounds like a really good one. It really does. And so that one's coming up and I'm looking forward to it. And I really appreciate you being on here today.
Oh,
Thank you for taking the time.
yeah. I do have one more thing though.
Oh, do tell.
So
Did
for
I miss
March,
somebody?
no, no. This is something that I finally got the okay to do last week, kind of making sure legally I could do it. So I am taking any money I make from any source that you buy my stuff and donating it to World Central Kitchen, which is feeding Ukrainians right now. So um, that's if my bonuses and everything stay on par, I'm looking at about $1,000. So I've been trying to push out there, just go out and read my stuff and like. You don't even have to buy if you don't have an account with Vella kind of thing. You can get your free tokens and that still counts for March. So that's
Oh, awesome.
yep.
And you're giving it all, every bit of it?
Every bit that I make, and I'll post up how much I made and everything, and it's and everything for March. So not what we're gonna find out this week, hopefully, what we made, but when we find out
Right,
next.
when March is declared.
Yep.
Right, right. Awesome.
Yep.
Well, that's very cool. So
Yeah.
everybody, this is Joy Froemling, and her stuff is going to be in the description of this video, so you can click on her stuff, and anything you read during the month of March, right, is going to be given to,
World Central Kitchen.
which is giving to the Ukrainians, right?
Yes. That's the organization that's feeding all of the Ukrainians that are being displaced. So
A very worthy cause. Thanks again for being on here.
thank you for having me. It was wonderful.